Most owners, even you, when you see a problem, you want to fix it personally.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, Jared should be doing this, or this guy should be doing it. Because you got to stop. And this is really, and what business owners, as they go through the cycle, especially the early stages, they're sitting there going, but I can fix it better than he can. And that's not the point. The point is, if you go in and fix something that your employee should have fixed, you make him feel bad. He's telling me I can't do the job. Give me a chance to do the job. At least let me make the mistake, for God's sakes.
What does it mean to plant your flag? It means you're not afraid.
It means you're passionate about what you do.
It means you're here to serve others.
In business, in life.
In good and bad.
You aren't afraid to fly your colors proudly because you know
you serve a greater purpose. This is the Plant Your Flag podcast with Mike Bean and Jeremy Mountain. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Plant Your Flag with Bean Media Productions. I'm Mike Bean, excited to be joined today by Paul Chisholm from Plan Administrators. So Paul, thanks for taking some time and coming down to our studio and engaging us in this this podcast.
Palatial studio.
Yeah, right. I know we're like I said, we're thrilled. We obviously want to talk about plan administrators, but the thing that we usually like to try to kick things off with is, because this is all about why people started their business, why they planted their flag.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about why you planted your flag. Like I said, Plan Administrators is going to be the focus, but you've owned other businesses. So what encouraged you to plant your flag? What made you think about being a business owner? What took you there?
Well, I worked, when I came out of college, I went to work for a Fortune 500 company. And I was in the sales, and as I was moving up the ranks, I always thought I was a little smarter than my boss.
That'll happen.
So, and it was okay because he probably had a lot of experience, but I was coming out of college, I had new ideas.
Right.
And so, as I kind of went through the system, I was very fortunate that the company that I was with decided to pay for my MBA. So I took an MBA, and I did it here. And my undergraduate's at UB in finance and accounting, and my master's is in marketing over at Canisius.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting that I did that. And kind of right after that, a headhunter called me and got me to move over to another company. Mm-hmm. And I did that. And it was still kind of like strange, because as you go through the whole progression and you figure out that maybe you know a little bit more, you're maybe a little more ambitious. I took more risks than what my boss wanted to take. I think what I found out was the culture in corporate America was very conservative. It was more along the lines of, don't make any mistakes and you'll be promoted. And that wasn't me. Not that I want to make mistakes, but I wanted to push the envelope to get things going. So I left my last company, which is another Fortune 500 company. It was the third one I was with, and I came back to Buffalo and I started my own business. I think I know more than they did.
Yeah.
So I did, and we just started a company that was helping other companies sell and marketing, which is what my background was. And then one of the companies asked me to invest in it. Mm-hmm. That's what I did. We built the brand. I bought out that partner, and I started traveling, and I really want to travel anymore. So I sold that company, and I went into the insurance and investment business, because I knew how big, if we can, no matter how big I make that market, it's still all going to be here in Western New York. I didn't have to travel. And I had 2 kids, and I wanted to stay home and be with them. So that's what I ended up doing. And then right after that, I was very heavy. I built an insurance agency, and I did investments. And my son came in to work for me. And he was obviously told me he wanted to take over, so I said okay. And then at the end of that period, when I moved the company over to him, I really didn't have any plans on what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And so one of my clients came to me and said, "Hey, you seem to do a good job of of exiting out of your business and giving it to your son. I want to do the same thing. Can you help me?
Right.
And that's what started it. And I did the plan administrators because I believe you plan what you're going to do and then you execute.
Right.
And so that's how the word plan administrators come in. So I help clients actually exit out of their business.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome because it's I think one of those things that nobody really thinks about when they jump into a business, unless maybe they've owned one before and had to exit that business. And there's so many layers to what you've done, and I think I want to start to kind of peel back some of those layers, but the marketing aspect and thinking that you know better, that resonates with me. I got my start in a similar fashion where I was doing television advertising and, I had to follow these guidelines that didn't make any sense. And I'm like, why are we restraining ourselves to old technology when this new technology is here? And I just broke out of the mold and said, let's just do something different. And it was scary. I would imagine you probably had some scary leaps that you had taken in your career as well. Even though you had that confidence of saying, it's easier said than done. 'Cause in hindsight, I know better. Were there some of those kind of scary leaps that you had taken at one point because you felt that you knew better and you had a better idea on how to, organize a business or organize the marketing at that point? And then when you actually took the leap, was there some trepidation at all?
Well, yeah, I think that when I came back to Buffalo and started working with the company, and then I finally bought it, I was really only the finance and marketing guy.
Mm-hmm.
When I bought the company, I had to learn how to manufacture stuff. How do you handle inventories? How do you get a production line in sync so there's no kinks in it? How do you, at the end of it, what do you do with your product, the inventory and the product?
Mm-hmm.
I learned that inventory is just a cost factor. It's not revenue.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't create anything, but it doesn't work as my father taught me. He says until it goes through the cash register, it's a cost.
Right.
So I had to figure out how, as I'm making this product, what am I going to do with it, and who can I sell it to? But you have to have enough here in case you have a lot of sales. So there was always a cash flow problem. And I think one of my real good lessons was I figured out that whether the accountant tells you a profit or not, it doesn't make any difference. It's really cash.
Right.
Cash is absolutely king.
Right.
And that's what I teach my business owners. If you don't know about your cash flow, you don't know what's going on in your business.
Right.
And there's a lot of guys, I can have several clients that I sat down and talked to, and I have a story. One manufacturer, I sat down and we were working together, and he gets this end of the year thing, and he comes to me and he goes, "So my accountant says I made a profit. Where the hell is it?" and I said, "Well, here he says, let me take you walk through the factory." So I walked out there. You see all that inventory you bought? That's where your profits are. That's where all your cash are. I said, accountants, CPAs are public accountants.
Right.
They produce reports that tell the public what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the report for you.
Right.
And I go back and I said that you need to go into management accounting, which I do. I said I can teach you management accounting, and it's more along the lines of where's the cash flow, how do I work the inventory, is the client that came to me, is there a profitability here, and where is it? Where's the problems? That type of stuff. And accountants, CPAs don't teach you that stuff. No, and that's a lot of the business owners have to learn that by
Usually
rote.
falling on their face.
Yeah, and they don't know why sometimes.
Right.
And but I've been through all that stuff, and I understand all this. And I have a lot of clients that they just love my saying. Cash is king. Everything else is dressing. That's it.
Right.
So that's what I end up doing. I mean, I know that you probably went through some cash flow problems.
Oh, for sure.
And that's what banks are for. But it's funny, banks will not lend people that can't show a positive cash flow.
Right. Yeah. You've got to make that balance.
Yeah, it's just a conundrum with banks.
Right.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell my clients. I said, I know that you have a great business. You're doing a great job. It looks like you're making profits. Your sales are going up. But if there's no positive cash flow, they're not going to loan you money. That's just, banks had a conversation with a banker last night, and the bottom line was, we want to know that you can pay the bills.
Right.
So we want to see a positive cash flow. You ain't got a positive cash flow, we're not going to give you money.
Right.
And owners sometimes just don't understand that.
Yeah, and there's obviously you've seen we're a couple years apart, I think. So you might have seen.
Thank you.
So I think you may have seen something that I might not have witnessed. I know we've went to dinner. Our wives and us have gone to dinner.
Which are the two best things in our life.
Yes, yeah. I always come here expecting to be able to see my wife. I don't understand why you think she works here, but one of the things is they have in common are those Hallmark movies, right?
Oh God, yes.
And they're cringy, and they always have these little. A little storyline where somebody needs to go to the small bank in small town USA, and they will just break them down, and then they'll give them money because, oh, you know what? Never mind. You've got such a great story, and there's such a great plot to this, and they'll hand over. Was there ever a time where banks would, in good faith, give out a loan, or is it all just Hallmark
I've only heard
movies?
stories.
Yeah, right. Okay. So those numbers matter, and whether you're selling or whether you're trying to grow the business, a lot of your accounting kind of plays a role in that. But ultimately, as a business owner, you need to keep your eye on it through the entire process and understand where you are in that process, and that's what you're doing now.
Correct.
And I think that the fact that you've owned multiple businesses, and you've, obviously, I would imagine I've sold them because, so I don't
only have one business left.
Right. Yeah. So you've gone through the process.
Yes.
So to kind of shed a little bit of light on that, that balance between owning a business, operating a business, running a business, they all sound like the same word, but I think they're three different words to you.
Oh yeah, I think that it's a cycle. I'm sure when you started your Bean Media, you did a lot of stuff that you're not doing now, and you're involved in a lot of stuff because you had to be,
right?
Because you couldn't really afford to hire people at the point that you needed. So you go through this business cycle, and then what happens is as your cash flow starts to be positive, and you realize, I can maybe hire somebody to take over. It's a transition to go from being the worker to being the supervisor. And it's a really tough transition. The first step is always very, very tough because you need to be involved. And the worst thing you can do is hire somebody and then stand over their shoulder and tell them what to do. Because you hire them to do a certain job, but you got to leave enough leeway in that they can have their own personality in it.
Right.
So what I tell my owners is that when you make that, he says, you need to sit down and put together a procedure and a policy manual for that person. So this is what you can do, and you do anything you want. There's a story goes that if you want your son to cut the grass, you can show him exactly how to cut the grass. But for him, that's like okay, but that's really mechanical. He said, but you tell him, look at when you get done, you see the neighbor across the street has really green grass. That's what I want to look like. And let the son figure it out. Okay, but I can cut it in a different way, and it'll look better. And you wouldn't do that.
Right.
And owners feel, rightfully so, that as they grow, they don't want to let go. They think they have to have control. Well, control isn't to be there all the time. Actually, control is better off if it's done through reporting. That you can sit down and look at the reports, figure out what's going on, and pinpoint the problems and pinpoint the stuff that's really good.
Right.
And that's the way it's going to be done. I do tell my owners that it's far better. You should always have a cost-benefit ratio that's positive for you, and it may mean that you have to give up a little bit of what you would think control, but you're going to pick it up at the other side on the reporting. And that's as you grow, you find out that's the one thing I learned in the Fortune 500 companies. When I was moving up the ladder, I had one boss that rightfully took me aside and said, "Don't ever let the employees know that you know what the fuck you're doing."
Right.
Because I'm going to get bleeped out.
No such thing.
So and when I started thinking, I says, that's right. I don't know what these guys do every day and every but I can see from the reports they're doing it.
Right.
So I don't need to be there. I just need to get the reports in to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I brought into the companies that I brought in. I brought a person on. I let him do what he wants to get done stuff done, and I just reported, got the reports done.
What kind of lift or release have you noticed since you started working with these companies and bringing that kind of perspective to the table? Because it might be the first time they've ever thought about it through those lenses or through that perspective.
Well, usually when I sit down and I want to work with an owner, and he hopefully my first interview is always to figure out, can we work together? Can you sit down and say, kind of give me a chance and try to do the things I'm telling you to do, and then if it doesn't work, come back and we'll do it a different way. There's hundreds of different ways to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. I said, by promise, I know what you should be doing, but it may not fit your personality. It may not fit what your outlook is. So I have to adjust that stuff as I go, and that's part of the whole. That's probably the hardest thing that I do is try to adjust it. But I think what I get a kick out of is all of a sudden you talk to an owner and they start doing stuff. It's like the light bulb goes out and their eyes turn like, wow, this is really going to work. I go, yeah, I've done it. I know it works, but you have to convince yourself you're going to do it.
Right.
And I just ask, I try to stay away from statements, and I try to ask questions to direct them where they want to go. I'm not telling them what to do, but have you thought about this? Try this thing. Mm-hmm. If you want to do that kind of stuff, this should be the results you're getting, that type of stuff.
And it goes a little bit deeper than that, though, doesn't it? Because there's a strategy in place. There's a mind shift that needs to happen. But then you're also looking at maybe some of the other components that go into the longevity, the next step of, so you're going to make sure that they're putting their money in the right places. And so you, because of all of your extensive background, you've got that big, like 10,000 foot view, and then you can help them apply those things. And so I'd like to learn a little bit more about that.
So most business owners are really concerned about day-to-day stuff. They're concerned about getting through the year, getting through this, that. And I've learned as they're in the business longer and longer, the horizon gets farther back out. And what I do is I sit down and I say, look, once we get past the cash flow problem, which sometimes takes several years to get past, and you're starting to grow your cash, one of the things you got to do is you got to realize that you're going to sit down, and at that point, you actually own a wealth building machine.
Right.
That's what you want. And if you do it correctly, you're not only going to build wealth for yourself, but for your employees. There's a way of getting it all done. And you still get your piece of the action that you deserve as an owner. The next problem is that once the machine's working and all this wealth is it's in the machine, you have to figure out the next step is how do you get that wealth from the machine over to you?
Right.
And that's the problem that we got is to get to that point. And it's a scary moment. Mm-hmm. Because they'll start thinking about us as, well, I got all this money over here, but if there's something happen with the company, and they don't have the cash, what happens to it? I said, well, you can always loan it back if you have to. You can always there's a bunch of ways to get it. But the cool thing is when you get to that point, the banks are happy to give you more money.
Right. Yeah, because it looks healthier on their side.
Healthier here, and they want to know, are you making money? Are you taking money out of the company? Is it still surviving? I mean, there's a whole bunch of questions that the banker will ask you that to them, it tells me, okay, you are doing well. You can pay your bills. Happy to give you the money to go to build the next building, that type of, and that's, it's a transition. It takes 2 to 5 years to get to that point.
So what you're saying is it can't happen in a 15-minute Hallmark movie.
No.
15 like sequence.
No.
It takes a little bit of time to get that smile from the banker.
Well, and actually, the Hallmark movie is a good way to think about it, because every Hallmark movie starts out, it's happy in the front bit, the people are really happy.
Yeah.
There's always a crisis in there.
Yeah.
There's a way of fixing the crisis. In the end, they're all happy.
Right.
And that's what happens in business. It's exactly the same cycle that goes through.
I had no intention at all on using this analogy going in as we sat down, but it's a trope. It's a series of tropes that they build into those movies, and it's the same. It's just different actors, same story, different situation,
different scenery.
But it really, different. Yeah, exactly. Some days it's snowing, other days it's Hawaii, but it's actually really shot in South Carolina. But yeah, there's my nerdy, video, background and movie background. But but it really does kind of boil down to it's an equation, and and yes, there's moving parts and personalities matter, and you got here for a reason. But if you boil it down to that equation, you can still help people do it their way, but there needs to be a system under the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And the system and the what you call system actually evolves as the company evolves, because there's at different stages you need to do something different. That if you do it too early, it's not going to work.
Right.
But if you go past it, if you did it and you're supposed to do it and go past it, it won't work anyways. Things work at a certain stage as you go, and that's what I end up doing. I've done it often enough that I say, I know what stage you're in. Here's what works in that stage. Well, I want to do it this way. No, you're not to that stage yet. You got to get over here and get to this point. And I explained why you got to do that. It's because there's other things that's set up in the company that's got to get done.
Right.
I don't know how many companies I've gone to that they have no procedures. They just know how to do it. I taught this guy. I said, but you taught this guy what you want to do. May not fit this guy. But more importantly, is now you're telling me you're going to train the next guy. So by the time you get down to the third or fourth generation, I said, instead of building a pizza, you're out there making a cake.
Right.
Because unless you have a written procedures and you approve the procedures, you end up doing this kind of stuff, and that it's your personality that's in the procedure. It's not going to be consistent enough, and that's what all big companies do. I mean, McDonald's does it that way. Disney has their own formulas.
Right.
But everybody does the exact same thing from a written document.
Right. Especially as you look to expand. If you're working with somebody who is either, if they own a franchise or they're looking to franchise, does that change your model much, or is it really boiled down to back what you were just talking about?
Well, the franchises are interesting because they have written procedures they're supposed to follow. I will tell you, some of the franchise people I work with, they're pretty loyal to the procedure,
right?
But every once in a while, they want to go outside,
right?
And I do encourage it because I said if it's successful, you go back to the franchise company and said, I tried this, it worked. Here's what happened, but you got to have it documented,
right?
The last thing that somebody who runs a big franchise company says, I'm not going to take you on their word. I want to see the documents. I want to see why? Because what you just told me, I have to replicate in the next 1,000.
Right.
If I can't do that, it's not really what we really need. It may work for you, and it's the same thing. And for the franchises are a little bit different, but they still need some help because they don't know. Franchise companies don't do exit planning.
Well, because they're not taught how to sell it. They're just they bring them in. They're guided through how to use the system that's in place,
right?
And it's just in the franchise benefit. It's just keep doing it. They don't expect them to retire. Yeah, I was gonna say they don't care, but you know what? We can say whatever. Fuck, we can say whatever. They don't really care about what happens next, as long as that franchise is churning and burning and doing their thing.
They care about getting their fees,
right? Yeah.
As long as you're doing it and you're making the fees, you're successful, and they're not about to upset the apple cart because this guy's working well. We're going to ride this horse until he dies.
Right. Why would we put that seed in his brain to start thinking about the next step?
But I come in and I disrupt all that. I said, no, you got to.
Good for you.
You got to end up thinking about what you're going to do next step. When you're going to retire, you're going to pass the franchise on if the contract allows it. Do you want to bring your son in and make him work? You want to. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things you can get done. There's 12 different ways to get out of a business, and most business owners don't even know more than 3.
I think as I've gone through these different phases, there's different things that have come to mind. But there's been times where I've always been used to throwing the eggs, not walking on the eggshells.
Yeah.
But there's been times where I've felt more comfortable throwing the eggs, and sometimes where I feel like I have to walk on the eggshells. You've obviously, most of the people we've talked to on this podcast have planted their flag because they're egg throwers. So you're brushing shoulders with a lot of different people who have that mindset. I have to imagine there had been a crazy story or some kind of thing that caught you off guard. Is there anything that comes to the top of mind that you'd want to talk about?
I think there was one guy I was working with. Well, no, actually, I'll go to the one.
I'm just curious to see if it happens to be me. You're going to say it.
Oh, Mike, well, you're perfect. Come on. Actually, it was the very first company I owned. I had never done manufacturing before, so we set the production line up, and I happened to have most of the production people were women, and
this is what, in 1924, or
it was the next decade.
Okay, somewhere in there. Okay, cool.
Remember, we're only a few years apart.
I know, that's right. Foot, mouth, my thing.
So, and as I was struggling with it, I realized that I was not. I had problems communicating to all these women, and my wife would back me up on that. But I mean, and I just so I happened to get in. A guy came to me when we started working, and I put him out there, and I said, "You can do the inventory stuff like that." And I noticed that the female started talking to him more than were talking to me, and he started. I could see that he was why don't you do this, why don't you do that? So I put him in charge of production. My production went right through the roof because they respected him, all right, as opposed to the boss coming in and telling him what to do or trying to teach him what the kind of stuff. So it was a hard lesson for me to learn that you had to give up and have somebody that could do a better job to go ahead and get it done. And that was the evolution of me learning how that you gotta bring in the people and let them do what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. No, I mean, I've noticed that there's certain kind of communication. There's certain people we work with, they will get right back to somebody else who works here, but they drag their feet on getting back to me because they probably think that I haven't talked to them in a couple of months and I'm looking to increase their bill or something like that. And it's nothing to do with it. I just I miss talking to you. But you had just kind of to go back to you mentioned sounding board, your wife. We brought up our wives before. When it comes to the sounding board, a lot of people, actually, there's been a few people on this podcast who have mentioned you as their sounding board. Who do you talk to? Is it your wife? Is it an old business partner? Is it God? I mean, who do you talk to when you need some advice? Because it seems like you've got a lot of experience. A lot of people lean towards you for it. So who do you talk to?
I would say my sounding board is actually my biggest critic is my wife.
Yeah,
she keeps me firmly grounded on the floor. She has no qualms at all telling me I'm stupid. Or something,
right.
And I appreciate that.
Sure.
But there are other guys that I've learned through my life that I belong to a country club and I sit down and talk to them at the bar and stuff like that, and they'll give me advice and stuff like that. People I respect.
A lot of those people at the bar they're on the bar.
They're on the bar. Some of them are on the bar. Yes.
So the legal, Right.
Some of them are not on the bar, and they're like CPAs and owners of the franchises and owners of businesses, and some of them have come to me and asked that I help them get out of their business, stuff like that. But I treat everybody as really as a sounding board. I've even talked to you about it. As what do you think of this? What do you think of that?
Right.
I learned after doing all this for many decades, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
But I know the questions to ask.
Right.
And it's a huge difference. And I would say my sounding board probably is my friends.
Yeah.
Sit down and talk to them. As you know, I'm a big golfer.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to get out there. It's relaxing. I talk to the guys in the foursome. I'm doing this and that. And, have you tried this way or something like that?
Right.
So I of the opinion, I'm always trying to learn. And then I'm going to apply the learning to my clients and get it done that way. So I love it. the biggest kick I get out of is sit down and learn all about a new business and say, okay, tell me how it runs, what's going on, this type of stuff. And the time that you or somebody are talking to me, it's like I'm saying, okay, so if we do this and that, it'll make it a little bit better. Maybe it won't be, that type of stuff. So I just have a very active mind.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of looking at it, because you can get a different answer from a bunch of different people.
Oh, yeah.
But if you are able to kind of funnel that and then kind of sort it out to maybe use it as sifting, right? Sift out the good answers. And then you said, you would go back to your wife or maybe somebody else who's better fit for that specific, discussion. But I really do think that through all the people I've talked to on this podcast, there's got to be somebody, because you can't do it alone, and as a community. And I would also imagine that you, because you've dealt with different businesses, own different businesses, you probably look at other people's businesses with maybe a little bit of a cleaner outlook, because people get too close to their
I stay
own
out of the
business.
weeds.
Yeah.
And I
What,
think,
golfing or business?
both.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I've played with you before. You're down the middle.
Yeah, getting into the weeds is not good for anything like that.
Yeah, right. But it's easy to get in the weeds when you're too close to it, and that outside perspective that you're able to provide.
Most owners, even you, when you see a problem, you want to fix it personally.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, Jared should be doing this, or this guy should be doing it. Because you got to stop. And this is really, and what business owners, as they go through the cycle, especially the early stages, they're sitting there going, but I can fix it better than he can. And that's not the point. The point is, if you go in and fix something that your employee should have fixed, you make him feel bad. He's telling me I can't do the job. Right. Give me a chance to do the job. At least let me make the mistake, for God's sakes.
Right.
And that type of stuff. So that's a lesson that most owners have to learn, and that's part of their maturity. Right. You just got to mature into the business. One of the Fortune 500 companies I was with, when we were talking about management, stuff like that, and I was going through a management course with them. They said there's various levels. I said, the problem is you got a worker, you got a supervisor, you got a manager, and then you got an executive, and then you got the officers. And he says every time you go up a level, all right, you're farther and farther away from the bottom, and you don't really understand what's going on there. And the reason why it happens, it's the way it works. But the guy at the top, he has to trust the people in the bottom are working.
Right.
He's not going to go out there. No guy, a president of a bank is not going to go out and try to be a teller. He probably forgot how to count money, for God's sakes.
Right. not in the dollar bill amount, right? Perspective. But that's where Undercover Boss apparently came from, I would imagine.
Yes.
Right. Which I haven't really watched enough of, but I think I should.
Well, that was an interesting show.
Yeah.
Where the boss would come in and actually walk through and do and pretend he was actually a worker.
Right.
And figured out, well, the policy that I'm telling you and the procedure that I'm telling you up at the top, it's not working down here.
Right.
And we got to fix that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very good show for bosses to realize that. But the flip side is that he still went back to being the boss, and he learned his lesson.
Right.
And when he came back, he still didn't go back and do it. He learned how to teach people how to do it.
Right. Would you ever put on a disguise for one of your clients?
No.
Pretend you're like entry level? No. Not well, let me know. There might be somebody around here who'd be willing to do that. Wear a wire.
Wear a wire.
Yeah, a little bit of a little camera and whatnot.
Well, in that state, I go out and I walk the floors.
Yeah.
The one manufacturer that I work for, I would go out. I would see, and I said, I'm going to go out on the floor. And I was thinking, well, like, what are you going to learn out on the floor? I said, you'd be surprised. I had to walk through and talk to people and stuff. I come back and say, this isn't working. Mm-hmm. This procedure that you set up, it's out of sync with what else is going around. I said, for that particular job, it may be the best way to do it, but it's like a cog. It's all got to fit together. And if this is out of sync, it's not going to go anyplace. I said, so for the purpose of actually being smooth on your production line, you need to change the procedure on that just to fit into what you're doing. And it may not be the optimal way of doing that particular job, but it's the one that fits into what's doing.
When you do that, what's your appearance? do they know that you're there for a certain function? Are you kind of walked around as a guest?
You want to change my appearance?
Well, I mean, I'm not allowed to wear what I'm wearing to, your favorite place. So do you dress down and try to go incognito? Do you just kind of like, how do they present you to the company?
It depends. Most of my owners, actually, that's me.
Oh, all right. Well, we've got it first right here. First phone call on Plant Your Flag. Paul Chisholm. Thank you very much, everybody. So where we were.
Okay, so
yeah.
I get introduced normally.
Yeah.
Not that I insist upon it,
You
but they
still
know
didn't silence it.
Yes, I did, didn't I?
No. It just.
Well, it's new
I heard the
technology.
ding.
It's new technology. What can I tell you?
That's why you got guys like me.
Yeah. There we go.
I love it. This is a perfect about this platform is that anything goes.
I'm always on call, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, hopefully that wasn't too important. Like somebody's like, not stuck in a snowdrift.
It was from your office. They want to know what the hell we're doing.
Oh, all right. Yeah, they're having too much fun in here. Yeah, I can imagine, Matt. Like,
So, I get introduced. And I mean, if I spend the whole day
mhm.
out in like a plant or even like at a retail store,
Right.
I'll dress down. I'll be
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a casual
Blend in.
blend in type of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't ever think I've ever worn a smock.
No.
I haven't done that yet.
Like, yeah, you've done
But it
the
was good.
undercover
But
boss
in the
already.
manufacturing, I wore a sweatshirt
Right.
walking around. But normally, if I'm with the boss or when I'm going to meet him,
Right.
like there's many times I meet with Banks with the boss,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be dressed like this,
Right.
and that type of stuff. So it depends, it really does.
Yeah. You told me that I think a long time ago is when you first meet somebody dressed to not impress, but dress the way they do. Because I've got
Yes.
obviously a casual style to
Yeah,
me.
you do.
And I'm a casual. The business is creative, and I questioned whether or not that was a good fit for where I was going. And you had mentioned, just you think you've got a good. Most people who know us and we banter back and
Yeah.
forth wouldn't know that you complimented me, but you've got a good, good sense for the room, and just try to keep in mind who you're meeting with, and
Yeah.
the first couple times you meet with them, dress the way they would, and then from there,
And you can figure it out from
kind
there.
of figure it out. Maybe loosen it up a little bit, be more yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to get to a client and either underdress or overdress versus the
Right.
client.
Right? Because I wore a tuxedo the first time we met, and you said that wasn't appropriate.
No, I thought I thought I was impressed, and I just started laughing. I go, "Boy, this guy is really out to lunch."
No, this is good. And Paul, you're a wealth of knowledge, and like I said, you've been brought up before by other people. Your previous company that you sold to your son, Insurance Associate Marketplace, they were gracious enough to give us these coasters, so that way when we do this, it's not too obnoxious for our viewers. But I'd like to give you a little bit of time to just let us know what's the best way to get in touch with plant administrators and Paul Chisholm.
Okay, so I have a website, right, Michael?
That's true, you do.
And you can always get a hold of me on that. I am very active in the community. I'm in the Kenton Chamber. I'm in a BHB meeting with you guys.
Right.
So there's a lot of people that get a hold of me. And they can always email me at paul@plan-administrators.com, and I'll respond to that. And once I send an email to whoever it is, there's a book with me
For an appointment thing.
for an
Yeah.
appointment thing, and
Yeah.
I'll respond to that type of stuff and things like that. I think I'm easy to get hold of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
And we'll make sure that we put your info up. And to your point, about the the booking and the website and things like that. It's all just we're laying the foundation towards your digital footprint right now.
Yeah.
And I would say by the time this airs, the website should be up and rolling. So
Yeah.
we're excited about all of that, and we're really, really happy that you had joined us here.
Yeah.
But thanks again, Paul,
No
for
problem.
joining us. This has been really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to the feedback on this. So thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of Plant Your Flag with Bean Media Productions. Mike Bean here, signing off. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, and see you next time.
Bye.
Paul.
What?
I can't.
So in the middle of the interview, I'm going to start just moving my lips.
You'd probably take my gum out. I'll stick it on the table. I'll get to it later.
And the other pieces are under there.
That's it. That's the only one. I promise. You can take that with you when you go, too. It's clean.
How come there's stuff on the bottom?
There shouldn't be stuff in the bottom. If it is, I promise they're not roofies.
I'm just all of a sudden go like,
And then you've got
Oh,
wet
okay.
pants, and then you're going out. Paul's from the old school mentality of walking uphill both ways in the snow, barefoot,
with the wind against you.
wind
both ways.
in your face. 100%.
In shorts and short sleeves. I'm okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So,
right,
so
here
when
we
do,
go.
when do we do our duet?
Oh, that's gonna be halfway through. What song did you pick? How's my flow? Is it good? Sweet Caroline, though.
Ooh, Sweet Caroline.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah.
good. Sweet
Let's rip that.
Caroline.
Dun, dun, dun.